Shalom lekulam, and welcome to this lesson on the secrets of Hanukkah. In this class, we're going to know or basically touch mostly the theme of meditation on each of the 8 days of Hanukkah. We're not going to go over the whole historical idea behind Hanukkah and all kind of stuff, because this class is not about that. There's a lot of sources online where we can have the traditions. For example, lighting the candles, eating latkes, and doing all this kind of stuff. Or if you're Sephardi, eating bizcochos or things like that. But we're not gonna go over that. We're gonna emphasize mostly on the secrets behind each day of Hanukkah, and what can we unlock? What can we actually meditate in order to attain the light? What is the significance behind it? Also, we're gonna see how this holiday of Hanukkah, even though it wasn't prescribed by the Creator in the original Torah, it was prescribed later by basically teachers of Israel, and how this holiday falls into these other holidays that we celebrate, like the high holidays. After the high holidays, how is Hanukkah related with them? How is Hanukkah related with Purim? How is Purim then related to Passover, where we start then the spiritual year? So the first thing that we need to know is that Hanukkah is a festivity, and this festivity lasts for 8 days. And there's a significance behind the number 8 that we're gonna be touching base as we study each of those days, and the meaning behind each day as you light the candles, and what you're gonna basically learn as you study with us tonight. Okay, so the first thing that we need to understand, that Hanukkah falls into what is called the solstice of winter, and during this solstice, during this time, certain forces, certain astral forces align. We see, like for example, we are in the zodiacal sign of Kislev, and that marks basically something. It gives us what kind of astral energy at this moment is working during these days, and what kind of energy we can tap into in order to bring down light and make the best, or take advantage as much as we can in order to elevate ourselves and bring light to the world, right? So Hanukkah is about that. Also, Hanukkah is a propitious time for miracles. And what is a miracle? A miracle is actually something that is beyond nature, something that does not happen naturally in nature, and all of a sudden this thing, let's say somebody's sick, and all of a sudden they get healed, even though scientifically we can say, there's a whole bunch of explanation about how the brain actually can trick the body to heal itself without using medicine and all that, like the placebo effect. But also there are times, in which are the ones that we call miracles, in which there's no explanation. There's no way to explain how the person got healed and things like that. And that's just an example. There's plenty of other miracles. For example, there was there's an accident, and all of a sudden the cars, car accident, and the cars got wrecked totally, and they're total, and nobody got hurt. That's kind of like a miracle as well. So there's countless, examples that we can say that is a miracle. Another thing that is a miracle, and this is something, as a Kabbalist we need to understand, there's a miracle every day, and that's when we open our eyes and we see that we're alive again, that we came back to this physical reality from the world of dreams, right? Okay, so what we're gonna see also is that this holiday falls basically mostly in December. Talking about the secular calendar, mostly in December and close to Christmas as well. And what I'm mentioning this, why am I doing this? So I put in Christmas in this class is for you to start looking at why we light candles, bringing basically light into darkness, and why also what we may say, the Christians have a pagan or this pagan custom of putting a Christmas tree with lights as well. And the whole point of that is the same. The only difference is what you're going to learn today here about Hanukkah. We don't do it because it is a tradition and it looks nice and everything like that. We do it because there's a spiritual process behind it, and it's not just about 8 days of eating latkes, eating bizcochitos, or lighting the candles and giving gifts to the kids and that kind of stuff. It's much more than that. It's a lot of other things. Okay, so let's start with a little explanation of what really happened. So what we're gonna see is Hanukkah is based on a story, the story of the Maccabees. And the Maccabees, the book of Maccabees is not gonna be found in the regular Tanakh that we have or anything like that. It's a book that is apart from the Tanakh, and the history there does not mention the holiday of Hanukkah or how it needs to be celebrated. Mostly we get our information from the Talmud. And the first thing we're going to see is the story. And I'm going to try to make it a little bit in a nutshell. So the Maccabees basically existed in the time where the land of Israel was invaded after Alexander the Great invaded the land. The land of Israel was controlled by one of his generals after Alexander died. And there were Jews that became basically like Greeks. They assimilated to the Greek philosophy. They have built, like they say, they have built gymnasiums. They have built a whole bunch of stuff, that were mostly for the Greek culture. And also, the temple was sometimes used as part of this type of pagan tradition from the Greeks, right? And what it says here is that Matiyahu ben Yohanan, he kills a Jew when the Jew was offering a pagan offering in the temple, and then he runs to the hills because people start rallying and trying to get him and kill him. And when he runs to the hills, he takes shelter there. Then there's this group of people that are mentioned that says, they're zealots of the Torah, and these people are the Hasidim Rishonim, and they appear. And what some sources tell us is that these Hasidim Rishonim, they were actually not really like people. They were more like angels that came to help Yehuda Maccabee. And they're the predecessors of what is the Perushim, of the Pharisees. They help Maccabee win, and they clean the temple. It takes basically 8 days, according to the sources. And there was a leader of this Hasidim Rishonim, and he changed the stone of offering. He puts it on the side. He puts a new one in there. And after that, we see that Yehuda Maccabee, Yehuda wants then to install the holiday of Hanukkah in order to celebrate the victory over the Greeks. Who are these Hasidim Rishonim? These Perushim, the Pharisees, or the predecessors of the Pharisees. These were basically Kabbalists, that they knew about the Merkava and how to invoke angels and all that. So they represented basically the army of heaven on earth, while the Maccabee army represented the army of earth. So it's like a physical and spiritual working together in order to have this battle victory. And the reason that they won was because they were not afraid. And that's very important. They were not afraid. There was no doubt in their mind. They were ready to do what is called Mesirat Nefesh, which is the sacrifice of the self for the things of the Creator, right? The mistake later that is made is that later there's a defeat, and the defeat is because they became afraid, and that's when you're gonna see they bring Rome into the scene, and then Rome takes over the land basically. So the sources also tell us that Mattiyahu ben Yohanan is a Gilgul, or a reincarnation of Yehuda ben Yaakov, the son of Jacob, called Judah, Yehuda. And also that in the story, you're gonna find a story in the story that name mentioned Yehudit. This is a ger, because there was an edict in which every woman that was supposed to get married, or after before she got married or anything like that, they needed to go and basically spend a night with a general. So she did that following the edict, but the whole point was in order to have the head of the general and show basically the Maccabees, not to be afraid. If she can do this, why you cannot do that? And they said that Yehudi was the Gilgul of Yaal, who cut the head of the generals in Judges. I think it was General Cicero. And so what we're gonna see in these stories, like, it's basically people or characters that resemble characters from other stories, and it's because they are doing a correction. They are the Gilgulim, the reincarnation of those souls that came during this time to correct and help basically win the battle against the Greek and bring the temple back into Kedusha, into holiness. And what was important, for this group of people basically to sacrifice all they have in order to win this battle. This battle was mostly not a religious battle. It wasn't about religion. It wasn't about philosophical or political or different agendas other than the one that has to do with spirituality. Because not having the temple and the temple being in Tumah, being in a state of uncleanness, that would mean no light coming to the world. And that's what is important. And they were fighting basically for the light. And this is why the story of the oil, in which there was oil only for 1 day and it lasted for 8 days, comes into the whole scheme of the Hanukkah process of bringing down the line, because it's all about that. It's about bringing light. And even though it's not mentioned in the book of Maccabee, the story of the 8 days that oil lasted, and they were able to have the menorah inside the temple, with light during those days, is because it's time. The Hanukkah proclamation is a time basically to proclaim the light. Proclaim the light. When the temple was clean, basically they were proclaiming the light to the world. They were bringing down the light back to the world. And what is this light? This light is the light that is hidden, which is Or, has the numerical value of 207, and 207 also is the numerical value for Raz, which is sequin. We're going to see this later. So we celebrate Hanukkah. Hanukkah is not, we would say, a holiday that was prescribed by the Creator during the time of Moses, right? But now we celebrate it, and it's have these traditions and all that. What does this holiday actually mean for us? So looking at sources and good explanations, I found an article by the Rav Lehman. He is the teacher of the group Bnei Baruch in Israel, and he explains in this article the holidays in a very good way, an easy way to understand. Like we said, the holidays always, the spiritual year always starts by the time of Pesach. And here he says, Pesach symbolizes the redemption from slavery in Egypt, reflects the first spiritual level, the exit from the ego, breaking free from it and ascending above it. Then there is a level of the giving of the Torah that is symbolized by Shavuot, the breaking of the stone tablets, which means the temporary return to Egypt, falling back into the ego, is Tisha B'Av. Is symbolized by the 9th of Av. This date now symbolizes a day of mourning, but in the future it will be the most joyful day. After the 9th of Av, there is Rosh Hashanah, a major turn towards the new spiritual correction. 10 days after Rosh Hashanah, there is Yom Kippur, when all of the person's states are revealed and then his sins are revealed and corrected. After Yom Kippur, a person begins to receive a special light of correction called the light of Sukkot, the surrounding light, the Or Makif, that reforms him. During the 7 days of Sukkot, a person reaches a state called Simchat Torah, the rejoicing of the Torah, since the light that descends on him provides him with the general corrections, bringing him close to the Creator. The next holiday is Hanukkah, which is the holiday of light that raises us above the ego and frees us from it. When we ascend above the ego, a person feels that he is free, but this isn't the end of correction yet. The end of correction comes when we finally change the ego to a state of love and bestowal. This happened in Purim. This is how a person goes through a whole cycle of holidays that symbolize the history of the Jewish people. I really hope that we will finally reach Purim, the end of correction, in the near future, and thus the whole earthly saga, the history of man's existence in this world, will come to end. This is a very nice article in which I think it was an article that explains how all these holidays, especially the Hanukkah holiday, how in which context it falls, and it falls in this development of spiritual development and elevation of not only ourselves but also the whole humanity, and how these holidays are related to one another and why they're so important for us to celebrate, commemorate, and remember. Okay, so in Hanukkah, so let's talk about what is Hanukkah. Hanukkah, we raise above our ego and we feel free, right? We celebrate the miracle of the impossible. We celebrate the miracles of our lives and create them this day as well. Also, this day, in Hanukkah, we obtain victory over the Yetzirah. And this is something that doesn't happen in the other holidays. In the other holidays, we attain the light. If you have taken the other classes on other holidays, it's Mahut raising to Bina, Bina to Mahut. In this holiday, something like that happens as well, and we're gonna see later what really happened on the 8th day of Hanukkah. Okay, it has to do with Mahut and Bina as well. But there's something that happens here that didn't happen in the other days, and it's like in this day is basically like a park, like we need to stop, okay, and then we stop here and we use the light and the radiation of this light in order for us to start sharing it with others as well. In Hanukkah also, we are in a process in which we need to understand, or we are supposed to understand, that the enemies within ourselves are the ones that are manifesting outside. So when you say that a person is acting in a certain way, this person is such a person that cannot stand because it's an arrogant and things like that, in reality what you're seeing is a reflection of something that is going on internally in yourself. So it's also in Hanukkah we have what we call a process of bringing that light down and recognizing these dark areas within our own self, so we can then see everybody else with that same light and basically judge them positively, right? Also, in these days of Hanukkah, the astral forces, when I say astral forces, we're talking about the earth, the moon, the sun, even the planets and the stars, and this falls mostly in Kabbalistic astrology, but I'm going to touch it a little bit. It's they aligned during this time, and they help us attain this victory over the Yetzirah, which is symbolized by the Greek in the book of Maccabee. So when we read the story of the book of Maccabee, what we need to understand is that the Maccabees are basically the desire to bestow, the desire to attract light in order to give it. So, and then the Greek are basically the ego. And we're going to see that in Hanukkah, the festivity, help us understand not only the external enemies but our internal enemies. And also we proclaim the light of the Torah in Sinai. And like I mentioned before, or light has a numerical value 207, which is Ras, or secret. So it's the hidden light. So we're not gonna hide this light anymore. We're gonna give it to the world, right? We're gonna also light the dark corners of ourselves and the dark corners of the world. And those who do not proclaim this light are like the Jewish Greeks, those Jews who assimilated in the Hanukkah story. And as Jews are assimilated, are basically, and this is using the language of roots and branches from Kabbalah, assimilation means materialism. A person that does not care anymore for spirituality, but only cares for the self and things that have nothing to do with spirituality. So the battle, let me change this so you can read the bottom part. The battle is against the ego. It's nothing external to fight. Everything, like we mentioned before, that is external is a manifestation of what is going on inside ourselves. To win this battle, we need to use the force from above together with the ones below. And this is where we need to understand the story. The Hasidim Rishonim, Hasideans, which are the predecessors of the Pharisees, they represent the forces from above. Like I mentioned before, these people, they knew how to, they were basically early Kabbalists, they knew about the Merkava, they knew how to invoke the forces of the angels. The Maccabees are the forces from below. So you have basically the forces of above and an army of human beings below. The same battle goes on now. And this battle goes on constantly inside ourselves when our spiritual self is in a constant battle with our materialistic self. When our desire to receive, which is the Greeks, takes hold, and then we have this desire to bestow inside us, which is our soul, that wants to basically bring down the light and correct this desire to receive. So we need to use the forces of Eliyahu Hanavi and the force of Mashiach. And Eliyahu, as we know, it is said in Judaism and also in Kabbalah that before Mashiach, we need to have Eliyahu first. Eliyahu needs to come first. And Eliyahu represents the forces from above, right? Eliyahu also, it says that he did not die, and he became an angel. And he became an angel that represents basically the angel of the sefirah Malchut, and that angel is Sandalphon. Sandalphon has the numerical value 280, and 280 is the same value of the 5 final letters of the Hebrew alphabet, known as Mansepach. Also, 280 is the same value of the number 46 in the 72 names of God, with the Aleph Resh Yod, which is certainty. Remember what I mentioned, that the Maccabees were able to win the battle because they were not afraid. They were certain. They were using, they didn't have any doubt. They were using this certainty, this power of certainty. So basically it's like this name, number 46 in the 72 names of God. It was radiating during that time. And when we meditate on these names, when I say these names, when we meditate on the names of Sandalphon, and when we meditate on the letters of Mansepach, we bring down the energy of Eliyahu. And how do we meditate? Simply, we can do it anywhere, first of all, but it's much better to do it in a place where we are comfortable, we are quiet, and nobody's going to interrupt us or anything like that. And we just do, or in the beginning, 7 deep breaths, and then we visualize these names. So it's important to memorize these letters, because we need to visualize these names and these letters in these names with a candle in the top, like if basically a flame in the top, like if it was a ner, basically, with lights on the top. And we meditate on them, and we just let the meditation take over without judgment, basically take over. And you can ask questions, spiritual questions, of course, and maybe some answers, some enlightenment will come. But in these cases, the meditation should be with the intention of bringing down the energy of Eliyahu, so Mashiach can be manifested. And Mashiach is basically what we call the Messianic age, which is a time in which there'll be no more war, there'll be nothing, everybody's gonna be working for the common good of everybody else, not for themselves only. And the reason that we do this in Hanukkah is to make sure, that Hanukkah is like Eliyahu and Purim will be like the time of Mashiach. And the reason in Purim we wear the mask is because the mask represents that we are not looking at the external things which are just masks. These bodies that we are wearing right now are temporary masks, right? There's something behind the mask, which is the spirit. And we don't know what it is, how it is, or anything like that. So there's no judgment. there's no judgment, and that's how the time of Mashiach is going to be. It's not going to be a time of judgment. It's going to be a time in which mercy is going to be manifested most of the time. So what is the meaning behind the oil, the lights or the fires, the wick, and all that? When we're lighting the candle, when also the priest was lighting the menorah in the temple, we can now, by knowing this, we can now visualize ourselves in those times in which the priest was lighting the menorah, by lighting our menorahs at home, and even lighting the menorah in our meditations as well, right? And by seeing the meaning of the oil, the wick, and the fire, we can then do this or perform this action with a better understanding and with a different intention. Now, Hanukkah is not just a holiday of traditions, it becomes a holiday of meaning. So what does the jug of oil represent? Remember, there was only one jug of oil, right? And that jug of oil that was kosher, of course, represents the ego. The vessel itself represents the ego. The ego is like a shell that is hiding the potential. The potential for what? The potential of our desire to enjoy, which is the oil. It's a potential that we can use for good. It's a potential that we can just waste it, and it can turn into light, or it can be like it happens, in those times. It can become tuma. It can become not holy, but from go to the other side, to the side of darkness. The wick represents that intention to do good unto others. And the fire represents the light of the Creator. And what you need to understand is you have these materials, like the jug of oil. You say you have it in your hands, you let it go, it will fall down. The oil, you spill some oil, it will fall down as well. The wick is just like a string. You let it go, it will fall down, right? However, you have these three things. One is a container that has this potential. The other one is a liquid that also has a potential, right? And the wick also has a potential, but they can do nothing unless there's light. And the light is the only element in here that goes up. Everything else falls down. So you're talking about three elements that are not designed to do anything holy, if we want to say it that way. However, when they come together and we add light into it, they work perfectly, right? They work perfect. So let's talk, about some of the things that we do in Hanukkah. And like I said before, I'm not going to talk here about latkes or anything like that. We're going to talk here about certain things that will make our holiday be a holiday of meaning. Okay, so we make some blessings before we light the menorah, and these blessings have a meaning. And there's a blessing that we do only on the first night, but we, that's only for the first night. There's a reason for it, explained by some of the rabbis, and we're not going to go into that type of laws and things like that. But like I said, we're going to use this prescribed blessings so we can understand or give meaning or give a better intention to our actions. So the first blessing before we light the menorah is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu v'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Hanukkah. Blessed are you, Lord, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to kindle the Hanukkah. And in that blessing, I want you to pay attention to the last three Hebrew words. These lehadlik right here, ner, Hannukah. Lehadlik is actually to kindle. Ner is like the flame, the candle itself, and Hannukah, the word Hannukah, because this is gonna be our meditation right here. Then after we do this, we then do the second blessing, which is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nisim le'avotenu ve'yamin hahem basman haseh. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, who performed miracles for our forefathers in those days and in this time. And these blessings are basically to help us start building that intention, right? Then on the first 9, we just do the Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shechechianu vekimanu vehigianu lasman haseh. Blessed are you, our Lord, King of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this season. But like I said, this is just to build that intention during the night. But pay attention to these 3 words here. Lehadlik ner shel ner Hannukah, actually. Lehadlik ner Hannukah. Why? Because this is going to help us understand the next slide. And the next slide is a little bit complicated, so I'm going to explain slowly. And it's related to this word. Lehadlik ner Hannukah. And what we're going to do is we're going to meditate on lehadlik with certain names. We're going to meditate on the word ner with certain names. And then Hannukah. The Hannukah is going to be split into 2 words because of the different numerical values that they will give. And that's when we are going to understand the work that we do during this time. So let me put only board, okay? So the word lehadlik right here, lehadlik, the word ner, and the word Hannukah, okay? And if you see, the word Hannukah here is spelled without a vav. But for this exercise, what we're gonna do is we are going to add that vav, and you're gonna see why. So when you meditate on the word lehadlik, what you need to visualize in your mind is the 72 name, which is Ab, the 63 name, which is Sag, and Ma. And they're going to be in the following. Chokmah, Bina, Da'at will be Ab. Chesed, Geburah, Tifaret is Sag. Netzach, Hod, Yesod is Ma. And these are the 3 parts of things that were created after Adam Kadmon. The value is 180. But after you meditate this, you're going to add also meditation of the Yod, Ha, Vav, Ha, and then, okay, Havaya, basically. And then in the middle, what we're going to do a filling with the name Ehyeh. But we're going to do it like in an extension, as it extend as Aleph, then Aleph Hey, Yod, then Aleph Hey, Yod, Hey. So we add that. And for those of you, this Yod here is supposed to be a Hey. It's supposed to be just like this one. Ha and Ha, not a Yod, okay? Let me see if I can change it right here. Okay, so now we're good. So instead of a Yod, it's supposed to be a Hey. Okay, so meditate on that name being filled with Ehyeh. The Yod Ha Vav Ha. In between the 2 Vav, you're gonna add Ehyeh, but extend it. Okay. Then after that, we're gonna meditate on the word Ner in the following way. We're going to visualize the word of the spirit, mind, and emotion, which is Atziluth, Yetzirah, and Briah. And this is how we bring the light, right? And in there, we're going to link the names Yohevavhe with a Hie. And we're going to do it in this way. Yod, Aleph, Hey, Hey, Vav, Yod, Hey, Hey. So you're going to see a Hie, E, He, I, E. Okay? Then in the word of Yetzirah, we're going to link Yohevavhe with Elohim. The same way that we did here, we're going to mix those letters. We're going to put them together, link them basically. Yod, Aleph, Hey, Lamed, Vav, Hey, Hey, Yod, Mem. Then we're going to visualize the following name, Yohevavhe Adonai. And that's for the level of Briah. And we're going to link them as well as Yod, Aleph, Hey, Dalet. Yod, Aleph, Hey, Dalet, Vav, Nun, Hey, Yod. And all these together will give you the numeration of 250. And don't pay attention to the numbers, I just mentioned here, but we've already filled it. Now we're linking the light, we're filling with light, we're linking the light with the words, right? Now we're gonna manifest the light. And that manifestation is through the word Hannukah. Like I mentioned, Hannukah here doesn't have a Vav, but we added the Vav. The Vav is supposed to be here in the middle, right? So what name are we going to meditate in the word of the body, Assiah? That's the number 63. That's this number here, Sag. And when it's extended as Yod, He, Vav, He. Okay, that's Sag. But Sag 63, that's the number for Hana, which is the three letters of Hannukah, right? And then we have the Kaf and the U, which is representative of the Vav here, and the Vav and the Kaf give us the number 26, which is the same numerical value of the name Yohevavhe. So we have Yohevavhe here basically twice. Once when it's extended, when it's spelled and as Yod, He, Vav, He, and then here without spelling, which gives 26, and all these give us a number 29. And these can be part of the meditation that we are going to start when we're doing these blessings. We start with the intention. After we light the candle, we sit down, or if you want to lay down, as long as it is safe to leave the candles without looking at them, or rather, have you, if you're doing the meditation, to be at least in front of the menorah, and then meditate on this. Meditate on how the light comes down through the Parsufim of Sagma, and then through the words of Atziluth, Briah, Assiah, and manifests itself in the physical realm, from the spiritual to the physical. Okay. Now, this is one of the many meditations you can do during the time of Hannukah. There's also another meditation that you can do, and this one is related to the lighting of the candles, and this can be done during the time of lighting, when you're lighting each of those candles. But the first thing that we need to understand is that the 8 nights are related to the 8 garments of the Kohen Hagadol, and that is also related to the sefirah Hod, which is the sefirah that represents Aharon, the priest, brother of Moses. Okay, and this is important because it's going to be part of our meditation. We're going to be meditating every time we light a candle into one of the 13 attributes of the Creator, and also we're going to be meditating on what kind of garment the priest was wearing and what correction needs to be meditated about on that night, and also how the lights represent also the sefirot, and how the sefirot are basically illuminating each other each night. So let's start with the first night. So in the first night, what you're going to do is you're going to meditate on, when it comes to the 13 attributes of the Creator, you're going to meditate on El, the name El, which is God in Chesed, God in the sefirah of mercy. Okay. Also, on that day, what you're going to see is that the priest's garment is the tunic and corrects killing. And you're going to say, okay, but I haven't killed nobody, so why do I need to meditate on that type of correction? And the reason for that is killing not necessarily mean, killing a person physically. Sometimes you kill characters of a person. Sometimes there's many ways you can kill a person, only in character, and killing the character by gossiping about this person, embarrassing this person, and all that. So that's something, that this day we can meditate about. How can we correct that type of behavior inside us, and also manifest that good behavior, that correction outside us. On the first day, what we have is the light of Malchut in the Kli of Bina. Remember what I said? That in the previous holidays we talk about Malchut and Bina. In this holiday is the same thing. Malchut and Bina are very important. These are the two He's inside the name Yehovah. And basically the aim of all these holidays, the aim of Kabbalah as a whole, for you to study Kabbalah, is to make the lower He ascend to the level of the first He. Meaning Malchut represents the desire to receive, which is the lower He. Bina represents the desire to bestow. And what we want to do is to mix these two desires in order to receive, in order to bestow. And this is how we make an egoistic desire altruistic. And that's what we call the Messianic age as well. The ascension of that force to the force of bestowal. The force of egoism, the force that keep us down. We ascend them. We ascend those lights. And as we ascend those lights, we create these fantastic we bring down this fantastic energy of bestowal from above. So in that day, you're gonna meditate basically in the name Ehyeh. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna meditate in the following way as Aleph, He, Yod, He. But as you're gonna see, they're gonna change as we meditate each day. This name is going to change, and it's gonna be spelled in different ways, and it's gonna give us different numbers. Okay, and like I said before, just ignore the numbers. That's something that I added there, but that's for more advanced thing. So that's the first day. Meditate on the name El, which means God in Chesed, and meditate on the tunic, which corrects killing, and meditate on the name Ehyeh, spelled in the way that is presented here, and understand that in this day Malchut is in the Kli, or in the vessel of Bina. Then on the second day, second night, we're gonna meditate on the attribute of Rahum, merciful. And this is from the 13 attributes of the Creator, right? So we're gonna meditate on that. We're gonna meditate also in the on the priest garment called pants, and that is gonna be to correct sexual transgression. Okay, so we're gonna meditate on that, and then understand now that what we have is the light of Yesod, the sefirah Yesod, the light of Yesod in the vessel of Chesed. So remember, in the first one we were the first night we were Malchut in Bina. Now we go one sefirah above Malchut and one sefirah below Bina, and that's when you have Yesod and Chesed, or Yesod in Chesed. And then we're gonna meditate in the name Ehyeh, spelled in the following way: Aleph, Ha, Yod, Ha. Okay? On the third night, we're gonna meditate on the word Hanun, God gracious, gracious. Then we're gonna meditate on the priest garment turban, which corrects haughtiness. Okay? And then we're going to be meditating as well in the following way, that this light represents Hod in the Kli of Geburah. Okay, now we are 2 below Bina, 2 sefirah above Malchut. On the fourth night, we're gonna meditate on the word Arech, which means slow. Slow, that's a word for slow to anger, right? But this is slow to anger for the righteous person, right? We're gonna meditate on the priest garment belt, the belt of the garments, the priest garment, and that is to correct the sin of the heart. And the sin of the heart is basically those desires, pure desires, and things like that. Okay. We're gonna meditate also in the light of Netzach, but in the Kli of Tifaret. Now we're 3 sefirot above Malchut, 3 sefirot below Bina, right? On the fifth night, we're going to be meditating on the word Apaim, slow to anger for the wicked. This time, the first one was for the righteous, now slow to anger to the wicked as well. Okay? And the garment that we're going to be meditating on is going to be the breastplate, which corrects errors in judgment. What I want you to see is that as the light as we light the menorah, we're adding more light, and we're meditating. Also, we need to understand that, and this is a good exercise. You can do that, like if we were putting these garments each day as well, and that's a good exercise that you can do as well. What garment you're putting yourself at that time. Now you're putting yourself the breastplate that corrects errors in judgment. And what we have is basically the light of Tifaret in the Kli of Netzach, right? And we're going to meditate on the name Ehyeh the following way: Aleph, Ha, Yod, He. On the sixth night, we are going to meditate on Berav Chesed, from the 13 attributes of God, full of kindness. And the garment that we're going to be meditating is the ephod, and that corrects sin of idolatry. Also that night, we need to meditate on the light of Geburah in the Kli of Hod. And the name Ehyeh is spelled in the following way: Aleph, Ha, Yod, He. On the seventh night, we're going to meditate on the word Be'emet. Be'emet, which means truth. The garment we're going to meditate is a robe, which corrects evil speech, Lashon Hara. And we're going to meditate in the light of Chesed inside the vessel of Yesod, inside the Kli of Yesod. And we're going to meditate in the name of God, Ehyeh, spelled in the following way: Aleph, He, Yod, He. And the last night of Hanukkah, we are going to meditate on the following words: Noser Chesed, Le'alafin Nose Avon, Ve'fesha Ve'chata'a Ve'anakeh, which is basically God in Chesed. Over here in the first night, it was God in Chesed, right? The creator in Chesed. Now, once again, we have God in Hesed. And these words means preserving loving kindness for thousands, forgiving iniquity and rebellion and sin. And the garment that we're going to be meditating is the crown, and that corrects arrogance. Okay, the light that we need to meditate is the light of Bina in the Kli of Malchut. On the first night, let me go back to the slide, we had the light of Malchut in the Kli of Bina. Now we have at the end the light of Bina in the Kli of Malchut. So the light of Bina came all the way down to Malchut, right? But we meditate on these candles and each night and all that. But what about the shamash? What does the shamash represent? What is the importance of the shamash? And a lot of people traditionally, when they're teaching you how to light the candles, you start from right to left. If you go to the Mishnah in the Talmud, they tell you it's right to left, and there's an opinion if it's left from right. There's another opinion which the Hannukah is supposed to be lit with all the candles first, and then you eliminate the candles. Another opinion that no, you add the candles, but at the end, what we follow is the tradition that we have, that we add a light to the menorah, and at the end we are left with a question, which is a shamash, right? Which is a candle that we use to candle all the other lights. But that candle, sometimes people don't pay attention to what the mission of this candle. And this shamash is basically the servant. It's called the servant. This candle is each one of us. This candle is us. We give light. Have the repetition there. We give light to others, and we can change. When we give light to others, we can change the world. We become Israel, a light to the nations. And the shamash has its own meditation as well, which you can do every night before you light the other candles. And the shamash is a servant, and it represents nifla, wonder. And you can meditate in the name Ehyeh, spelled in the following way: Aleph, He, Yod, He. And it's all about us becoming that servant, that shamash, that light that basically nobody pays attention, because all the other ones are basically stealing the show every night. But every night there's one that is adding light to all the others. There's one that is doing all that. However, we sometimes don't see the meaning on it. And the meaning of it is the following. We're going to read from Assiah, Yeshayahu 49:6. For he has said, "It is too little that you should be my servant. In that I raise up the tribes of Jacob and restore the survivors of Israel. I will also make you a light unto the nations, that my salvation may reach the ends of the earth." So this light, like I mentioned, this candle is us. So this is what we need to make sure that we attain this light, that we are sacrificing ourselves like the Maccabees did in order to bring light to the world, risking everything just as the Maccabees did, thinking that we're small, like the shamash is only one candle, but look, that one candle, how it gives light to all the other candles. So just like the Maccabees were outnumbered by the Greeks, and look how they won the battle. Look how those of us who are looking for spiritual things, spiritual attainment, from spiritual enlightenment, are few, but we can bring a lot of light to the world. Okay, this is what you need to think in Hanukkah, and give meaning to Hanukkah in that way. The Hanukkah is a festival of light, where we proclaim and manifest the light, and that we are not going to basically be sitting just eating latkes, donuts, bizcochitos, and things like that. It's much more than that. It's much more than the traditional. It's a spiritual process that we need to go through, and that spiritual process is with or is related to the others. So we need to become that shamash and light every other person, give light to every other person that we find in the way, which is the whole purpose of the Torah. The whole purpose of the Torah is to understand, to learn, and to practice that we need to love each other, that we need to love our neighbor as ourselves. And that's the only way we can manifest the Creator, we can manifest the light into the world, okay? So I hope you have found this lesson interesting, insightful. The goal of this lesson was to make sure that as we practice all the traditional things that we practice according to our each tradition, Sephardi, Ashkenazi, or others, that we're here to bring light. And that even though this holiday falls in the time of Christmas, the meaning behind the holiday of Hanukkah is different than that of a tree full of light. They aim to bring light into the darkness because it have to do with winter being dark and cold, and the meaning of pagan holidays adopted from the Roman Empire and then converted into Christian holidays. But for those who are part of Israel, Hanukkah is different than that holiday. Hanukkah should be kept separate from the holiday in the sense that if we give a meaning, if we don't just use it as a holiday that is celebrated by a certain group, and we understand that it's not just that, a holiday celebrated by a certain ethnic group, but that it is a holiday that has meaning, that has spiritual work behind it, that has spiritual meaning as well, that each day means something, that each day is an opportunity to bring the light down to earth, that there are cosmic forces that are aligning in order to help us during these days to bring that light. If we add all that, and if we do these meditations, and if we put the good intention into this holiday will be a holiday of not commemoration or remembering the battle of the Maccabees, but a holiday with meaning and purpose. And the purpose is to bring down the light by killing the Greeks, which is our ego, and by cleaning the temple, which is our heart, and by removing the stone that was basically used for pagan sacrifices, and putting a new one, a new altar, a new prayer, a new request for the light that will fill the earth with light, and each person will be enlightened as well, just like the candles of the menorah. With this being said, I hope that you have a happy Hanukkah with your friends and family, and I'll be seeing you in the next lesson for the next holiday Purim. Make sure you visit us at www.receivingtheupperlight.com, and if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel so you can have every time we have a new video, you can have the updated video, the new video, and also receive notifications saying that we have a new video. We have weekly classes related to the Parsha, and also we have other classes related to Kabbalah only, and a lot of other things are gonna be added to the website, which is constantly changing. So with this said, Shalom, Happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach.